The new MegaMass Xpload seated row machine, first reaction. What's up, beautiful people? I'm going to show you my first reaction of this machine right here. The MegaMass seated Xpload row. So one of three machines I got from Leo recently. I'm going to start with this one, just give you my initial reaction. So you can see it has the same linkage system as the Xpload chest pieces. Leo's converted it to a linear rail row, similar to what he did to the chest press. This is kind of reminiscent of the King Fitness seated linear bearing row. They have a very similar linear row. Came out years ago. They still make it. This is kind of a spin-off of that. So a very aesthetic piece. I actually love this finish that Leo got. I love the red and black combo, but this is a different red. I love it's like a sort of darker, glittery red. I love it. But this thing is massive. I had no idea this thing's like 900 pounds. It's heavy. The main drawback, one of the drawbacks of the machine you'll see is how wide it is. It's just a big footprint. So he has a couple of horns here to alter strength curve and a massive counterweight. So I used this initially without the counterweight. I was like, man, this thing's way off. Look at how much, that's like 50 pounds on each counterweight. It's crazy. I don't think I've ever seen a counterweight that heavy, but you'll see. The machine feels heavy, so it's definitely not a machine for ego lifters. That could be a potential thing to consider in a commercial gym, the strength of your users. Obviously, hardcore bodybuilders will likely love this thing. If you're a female or if you're not super strong, you're probably going to avoid this machine. See three different handle types. I'll kind of just give you a rundown. Seat adjusts up and down and back and forth. And he's got a foot plate in the front. What's up, beautiful people? This is my second time using this machine, just kind of playing around and warming up. Well, honestly, one of the first reactions I had was how heavy this thing is. This is not like your cheap Chinese remake like some other companies make. This is literally 900 pounds. It's crazy heavy machine. I was just floored. I don't know if any other row machine I even have is this heavy. Obviously, there's a lot of metal. There's a lot of joints that go into it. But yeah, I was struck by how crazy heavy this is. So I'm just warming up, playing around with the weight on the different horns. So the chest pad does adjust, which is nice. It's got this straight up prone handle, this semi-neutral handle, and this translated up underhand or overhand handle. So initially you can see the convergence divergence profile. So depending on your limb length, your size, it may diverge too much or too little, or maybe perfect. What I'll say is I'm decently wide, but the convergence and divergence in relation to the placement of the chest pad is a little bit too much for quote unquote optimal muscle stimulation. So to optimize it, quote unquote, actually better to do it one arm at a time. I mean, if you're super wide, that may fit you perfectly. So, I actually found the weight was pretty comfortable when it was at the end, because it's quote unquote a little bit easier when the weight's on that initial bottom horn. It's the middle horn there, the top horn is a little bit too heavy. So you can see I'm just playing around with the weight in different spots. You'll see one of my criticisms as you watch that translate is the movement arc doesn't translate enough in its arc of excursion to get a full, quote unquote, optimal strength curve. So I'm going to improve that. You'll see I'm just kind of playing around from the bottom to the top horn. So 3 plates on the top. It's decently heavy. But you can see even with all the weight on the top horn, the chest pad all the way out, I don't quite get the perfect strength curve. It's still a little bit too heavy in relation to the strength of my lats and my upper back at end range of contraction. So initial thoughts, I think Leo is one of the few in the industry that's actually trying to innovate, trying to create new things. Whereas most other companies are just being copycats and just rehashing the same old crap. Leo's actually thinking outside the box. So first impressions, I probably get it an 8.5 out of 10. Particularly for uniqueness, it's a unique piece. There's nothing like this on the market. It's, like I said, reminiscent of the King linear row, but the King linear row it's just straight horizontal translation. Doesn't have a diverging converging profile. That being said, I think there's lots of things that can improve, but it's super smooth. Variable strength curve, which is cool. It just needs another horn, and maybe even another 2 horns. It's just a little too heavy, and you don't get a full drop off and taper even when it translates all the way to the back. After initial use, one of the main criticisms I had was the foot plate's just kind of unnecessary. It just makes it sort of longer than it needs to be. It makes it unusually large. It doesn't, can you make the same machine in half the footprint? That's the question. But now I'll show you how I like to use this machine, how you can actually use this, which is pretty cool. What you can actually do is take the chest pad out and treat this like you would a long row, like a cable long row, where you're stretching all the way forward and you're stretching all the way back. So you can see there's no chest pad. I'm going to kind of almost treat it like I would if I was at a cable long row. What I will say though is even with the handle, even with your hands at the closest handles, there's too much convergence and divergence. It doesn't feel comfortable. But once I add some snap rings and you can add some free floating D handles to kind of adjust your position, it'd actually be perfect. But as is right now, like this is really the only use for it, but it's really totally unnecessary because the foot pads underneath are perfectly fine. You don't need this thing. I would say 98, 99% of even seasoned gym goers that hop on this are going to love this thing, and they're going to think this is amazing right away, which it's actually very good. If you know the refined subtleties of gym equipment, of strength curves, of motion pass, kind of more like I do, you'll immediately see some things that can be improved. So honestly, this is probably his best handle, the one that's translated further forward. It's just a little bit off. It's a fantastic idea, but once I tweak it a little, you'll see how much crazier, better it's going to be. The other thing I'll say is this: because you're in a fixed linear path, your limb length, your torso length, your arm length is going to determine a lot. Because for most people, myself included, even bigger guys, this is going to diverge too much too quickly. So these handles need to come closer together. They need to be as tight to the body as possible to get optimal muscle recruitment. It's not like a rotary upper back where you can get away with it, because what happens by the time it gets to your side, you're too wide. You're a little too wide. You're still going to get great stimulation, and you can still do one arm at a time. Turn to the side just a little bit. But to make this thing way better, among other things, I'm gonna bring these handles closer together. You'll have to see some of my souped up handles I'm gonna add to this too. I know exactly how to make handles to make this thing a freaking 10 out of 10 machine. Once I improve the strength curve just a little bit and alter it, it's gonna be 10 out of 10 machine. A professional tip here from someone who just lives and breathes this stuff. Whenever you make a row machine, you need to make the chest pad adjustable. I love that it does come in and out quite a bit, but every single row machine, you need to have that chest pad adjustable just to give you the option to pull a slightly different angle. You've probably seen some other videos. Often you will use an inverted ab mat to adjust for that. So this may not be worth the time, the energy, the cost for me to try to modify that when I can just add an extra pad and adjust for the position. Anyways, great machine. Bravo to Leo for thinking outside the box. Tell me what you guys think. Like I said, this is one of 3 machines I got from him. I would say it's probably my second favorite of the 3 I got. I'll have to show you my first and third that I got from him. But stay tuned, like, comment, subscribe below. Let me know what you guys think. Have an amazing day.